I hope you guys are all having a fantastic week. I'm going to just recap really quick the second half of how live streaming can benefit your church. We talked about what we could do with the broadcast, right? We talked about when you are broadcasting your services that you can basically take the message that is happening on Sunday morning and take it beyond the walls of your church. For folks that can't be there, they're still able to join. For searchers, people that are looking for a church or want maybe they don't want to go to a physical church, they just want to have church right there at home. It gives them a way to test out your services before they even come to your church, right? It gives you a platform to build an online extended congregation. And as we move forward in these years to come, I think that is going to become more and more and more essential that we are thinking in terms of an extended congregation, a digital congregation. It also provides a way for people to come back to church in a less threatening way, right? It's hard for folks who have been burned by organized religion to just decide, okay, Sunday morning, 9:30, let's get to church. That's a wall that's really hard for them to climb. This gives them a way to kind of ease back into it and find out what you guys are really about. And it gives you the opportunity to continue the conversation by doing like Q&As and stuff like that. It also gives you the ability to build and to share your church's culture. Folks that are unable to come to, say, an event, whether it's a youth event, whether it's a summer bash, Dunkin' Machines, the fall harvest, trunk or treat, whatever. Folks that can't be there, if you are live streaming from there, if you're walking around with your camera phone, if you're walking around with your phone and live streaming with the camera that's on your phone, then they get an opportunity to just sort of, join in right there in the moment. And of course, you can show behind the scenes of all kinds of different stuff. Doing that actually really builds engagement because people really like that stuff. It gives them an opportunity to look behind the scenes, to see us, the pastoral staff, the ministers, the people that are up in front, that sort of thing. It gives them an opportunity to see us in a different element, out of our element, in our element. As the years go on, and as the church grows, we were talking about how the pastor in a small church, it's real easy for the pastor to have many more one-on-one relationships, many more personal relationships. You can go with the pastor, to lunch after church. I grew up doing that. That was just a part of our life. They were some of our best friends, and there were several other families in the church that had that kind of relationship with them. But, as the church gets larger, 400, 500, 600, I mean, our church, we're running 600, 700, something like that on average, and we have a new pastor, and it is going to take him a long time to get to know everybody in there because it's just physically hard. The larger the church gets, the farther the pastor gets from the average person that's in church. It's just the way it is. He can't one-on-one with everybody, which is why we have all these auxiliary ministers, right? We have a minister to families and a pastor to the youth pastor, and we have a pastor to the elderly people and all so that they can have those one-on-one relations, right? It's like a divide and conquer. But when you're live streaming, when you're using live streaming in your ministry, your pastor can, on Monday morning, do a Q&A right at his desk from his laptop. Just turn it on, go live, and say, hey, you know what? Yesterday we were talking about this, in our series on strong biblical marriages. And one of the people came up to me after the church and asked me this question, and I just thought I'd share it with you. He's able to start having like I said, it's a broadcast mechanism, but because of things like doing chat and things like that, comments, right? He's able to have these one-on-one conversations either during the live stream or after the live stream. He can just go through the chat and answer questions and begin a dialogue with each of these little people. Number one, both of you can do it at your own pace, at your own leisure, and you'll get a notification in Facebook. And it gives you the opportunity to have a one-on-one relationship in a cold, harsh digital medium, right? It's pretty cool. So anyway, that is a little recap of yesterday. And when you're doing this, when you're building and sharing your church's culture and letting people see you guys in and out of your element, and then in a formal manner like the live stream of the service and all that, what it does is it builds know, like, and trust. Know, like, and trust. That is something really crucial when you're dealing in an online world. Know, like, and trust is kind of at the core of everything. If you really stop and think about it for a minute, think about your everyday life, okay? Think about the places that you go and eat, maybe at a sit-down restaurant or a good food fast kind of restaurant, your favorite taco shack, the place you like to go get wings, things like that. Why do you keep going back to those places? Well, they have good food. The more you go back there, the more you get to know the people that are running that place, the more you get to like those people, the more you get to trust them, right? And they trust you because you're a regular customer and you start building a friendship. So we have this restaurant a few miles from our house. It's a Tex-Mex place called Politos, Cafe Politos. It's a small family chain. They got less than a dozen restaurants, around North Texas. And it's great food. Y'all don't know me. I'm huge. I love Tex-Mex. Oh my goodness, I love Tex-Mex. Anyway, and I'm from Texas, so obviously we got lots of it around here. We started going there a number of years ago, and our children were little, and we, generally sat in the same section or one other section, and got to know the wait staff there. And what's cool is because it's a family restaurant, the wait staff kind of hardly never changes. I mean, they're the two or three main people that are the wait staff have been there for like 30 years. And so they get to know their customers. We get to know them. We start developing friendships, literally hanging out sometimes outside of the restaurant, like, stopping by their house and sitting in the backyard, having tea and goofing off while the kids are playing. I mean, that kind of thing. But what that is know, like, and trust. And that is happening in the analog world all the time. Why do you go to the cleaners that you go to? Because you've started to get to know them. You trust them with your stuff. You like the place, right? Why do you go to the church that you go to? The physical church, why do you go there? Because there are people there that you've started to get to know the ministers, you like the pastor, you trust him to speak into your life, right? Know, like, and trust. That's all in the analog world. That's all in the real world. When you're online, it's very, very, very important that you build that as well. And it's a lot harder to do it because you're not in a physical thing. I can't put my arm around you and pray with you if you're not standing here in front of me, right? The more I live stream, the more you guys are getting to know me. A lot of you never heard of me before. On Monday, this weirdo dude came in and started talking about live streaming, right? And then on Tuesday, he wore the same shirt. I did that on purpose, by the way. He wore the same shirt, and he's talking about live streaming again. And then today, it's like, hey, we're going to go see the weird guy, and he's going to talk about live streaming. Why? Because you're starting to get to know me. And hopefully, we'll develop a friendship and a relationship online through email, through chat, through my live streams, through you sharing with me the things that you're doing, all that sort of stuff. And we'll build a relationship, and we may never, ever physically come into contact with each other, ever, right? But over time, you're going to start trusting me for information. Know, like, and trust. When you are putting your church out there, when you're putting your ministry out there online, it is cold at first. They don't know you. They don't like you. They don't trust you. They don't know. Especially, remember we talk about these people that are that have been burned by organized religion. Yesterday, I was talking about my friends that are atheists. One of them, close friend, a guy that, I love this guy. Love him. Worked with him. Love this guy. He's awesome. He's brilliant. He's funny. He's wonderful. He ran away from the Lord. So much so that he actually, he grew up in the church, made a profession of faith when he was young, all that sort of stuff. Got burned because of the legalism that was going on in his church, in his house, and all that. When he was able to rebel, when he got to some freedom, he rebelled against that because he couldn't see God's love and mercy when his parents were burning his records, So somebody like that is not going to be trusting my pastor, Jared, when they go to TateSprings.com. They're just going to go there, if he ever goes there, they're going to go there and they're going to go, Oh, yeah, nice, pretty people. Yeah, okay. Hypocrites. Okay. Oh, yeah. Ooh, they're live streaming. Ooh, that's good. And they're going to come up with all kinds of reasons why everything that we're doing is wrong. But if they stay there and if they engage and they find out that, we've got a Facebook page and they start engaging with us on there and they start engaging with the pastor and they ask a question, an honest question, he gives an honest answer. They find out that he's a real guy, that he's not, some hypocrite, do as I say, not as I do, that he's just as broken and damaged as they are, except he's received forgiveness and accepted it and trying to do better. They can build that relationship and without ever physically being together. So I didn't mean to keep beating that dead horse, but that is a very, very important thing. And that is one of the key reasons why we do things like live stream, why we do things like social media, why we engage in conversations online, et cetera, et cetera. Neil says, last research I read was that 80% of seekers who won't step in your doors without visiting your website or at least some electronic interaction. That's right. I believe that 100%. That's what we did. We are believers. We didn't want to go for 6 weeks or 6 months, every Sunday, a different church floating around. Where do we go? And they all blend together. And now we've been out of church and not growing. We've just been visiting and visiting and visiting. We're not doing that. We got on Google. We checked out the Facebook page. Somehow we ended up at this church because they weren't good on Google. They weren't good on their website. They weren't good on Facebook. Actually, the reason we ended up here is we had heard, personally, just personal story, we had heard about this church and decided to come visit it because the church that we were going to, this was the church that planted that church. And then my wife got a job offer to work in the school. So we just sort of started meeting people. And before you know it, we were a part of this church. So anyway, close parentheses on that. Let's see here. Alyssa Zek. I need to be brave and do more behind-the-scenes streaming. You do. And it does take being brave. Let me tell you something. I want to encourage you. I have found that at some point, and I don't know when it was, I don't know if I was in college, I don't know if I was an adult, or whatever, at some point, for me personally, I realized I don't care what people think. Now, that's weird, right? Because if you know me, Neil knows me, Jordan knows me, they both know that I'm a people pleaser and I want to be liked and I want people to, I enjoy getting a pat on the back. So if all you guys, when I'm done with this, would go say, great job, Dave. We got a bunch of great wisdom. Dave shared some great insight, stuff like that. I'm going to love that, okay? And I'm going to be upset if one of you guys go, this guy's an idiot. He made faces and he's talking a bunch of garbage. That is going to hurt my feelings and stuff. But that aside, because that is a part of who I am, the people pleaser, there's also something inside that said, who cares what people think? And I was like, yeah, that's right. Who cares what people think? And I'll tell you, in general, because I've been doing this to the internet at large for years. In the ministry, it's a little different because the people that the 350 or 400 people that you worship with on Sunday are going to be seeing you. So you do have to be careful, and you don't want to be like, swigging a beer, doing anything like that. But remember that you take yourself more seriously than other people do, right? You want people to take you seriously, obviously, but we're our own worst critics. So you will look at everything you do and nitpick it and be scared because you're afraid you're going to mess up and you don't want to look foolish in front of people and stuff like that. You will, the more you do, realize people don't care. In fact, most people are rooting for you, the people that you know. And I'm guessing, Alyssa, that you as well are hoping that what I'm doing is good and that I'm going to do a good job here. And I bet if everything started falling apart and I started losing my place and getting embarrassed and doing all that sort of stuff, you'd feel bad for me. That's the same thing. Everyone else is going to be like that as well. More so than the trolls and garbage that you see online. So do not worry. Put yourself out there. Be brave. Show behind the scenes. People want to see raw. They want to see, you're walking and doing a live stream, going down the hall, and you trip over something. Or someone says, what are you doing? And then you turn around and say, hey, we're doing this. And that person's like, oh, well, let me fix my hair or something. Any of that kind of stuff. It's in the moment. It's real. It's what would be happening if the person was standing next to you. You're not going to just all of a sudden be perfect and prim and get the script down and everything's going to be just absolutely great. And good evening. My name is Dave Curley, and tonight I'm going to be sharing with you live streaming for churches the easy way. You're not going to be doing that when you're standing there with 2 or 3 people in the hallway at the church, are you? Right? So when you're live streaming that behind the scenes stuff, you're standing there with 2 or 3 people. Don't worry about it. I beat that horse. I hope what we're going over is helpful for you guys. I hope you guys did get something out of this. The most important thing in the whole why should we live stream is because of that know, like, and trust. I mean, we want to minister to people beyond the walls of our church. The way we do it is by being out there and letting them see us on a regular basis, letting them get to know us, letting them see the culture of our church. That is really important. There are a lot of, I grew up in the church in the 80s. I know my friends, a lot of the people that I hang out with and stuff, were in the same spot. We all grew up in the church. Our parents, grew up around the church, and even if they didn't go to church all the time, they went to church sometime, and they knew that everybody went to church, and it's just assumed during all that time. Nowadays, oh heavens! I mean, no one thinks about going to church. Some people think you're ridiculous for getting up early on a Sunday morning when you don't have to and going to church and stuff. Society is not thinking like that anymore, right? So it's important that we go where they are, which is not in church. They're not sitting in the pews. They're online. They're at other places. So that's why we go out and live a life that is attractive. And that's why we do this online stuff, so that when that person sits down to ask a question, what does God say, or what does the Bible say about marriage? What does the Bible say about gay marriage? What does the Bible say about, sex before marriage? When they start asking these questions, if you're blogging, if you are talking about these things on social media, if you're doing short videos, if you're live streaming your services, and some of these things are in there, and then of course, you've written in, good notes and stuff like that for the YouTube video and all that, you will start showing up in the queries, in the Google searches, and in the searches for these questions that they're asking, and then you can start speaking into their lives and start ministering. And the more that they see you, and the more that they see the reality of you, and the lack of pretense, and the genuine care that can come through like these quick hits and these random live streams, and just running around and saying what's going on, and here's what we're working on, and I really messed up on this, and I got to redo it, and I'm sorry, guys, and all this kind of stuff. They see the reality, the more impact it's going to make, just like it does in real life, analog life.